Hello class, it's me, your professor, Prof. B. Happy week 4. Okay, so I'm going to apologize in advance because this is going to be a longer video than normal because I got some stuff I want to go over and have some teachable moments, if you will. Okay, so some housekeeping stuff. Yes, I haven't graded the first homework assignment, the first Excel assignment, and I will do that this week, I swear, I promise. I just know all of you did very well on it because you had such a wonderful instructional tutorial video, so I'm really not too worried about that. We just finished our first quiz, although it's named Quiz 3, it's really meant to signify our third assignment. And they're not really quizzes, like I said, they're just the quiz function in Leo allows us to have auto-graded assignments, and I'll have to get with my course directors about changing that terminology because the normal person hears or sees the word quiz, they think tests, they think anxiety, that sort of thing, and that's not what they're about. They're really just your weekly assignment. So, so on this last quiz, actually, wow, I'm actually really impressed, and I know the multiple attempts helped big time. I can see that. I could see a progression of scores, although it wasn't huge, so it makes me think you did pretty well from the onset. So, and the good news is no one failed. Everyone passed. Actually, really passed. So we will maintain that process. So this week we have another quiz or assignment number 4, and again I upped the attempts to 3, and we also have a discussion, which is not, again, our discussions really aren't discussions, they're more like assignments, because this week there's 2 probability puzzles that you can pick one to try to figure out, and they're kind of fun, they're kind of gamey, if you will. So on this week's content, we're still in the world of probability, moving towards the easier end of probability, I like to think. So you can see terms again that have been introduced, like contingency tables, and that's actually important. The concept of the contingency table is simple. It's just a table, and you'll see tables that are called 2x2 tables or 2x3 tables, 2x4 tables. What that refers to is the number of rows and columns. So a 2x2 is 2 rows and 2 columns. With respect to probability, a contingency table is a way of organizing your data such that whatever intersection of columns and rows, that's usually typically a proportion or percentage, and the data, so if it's a 2x2, so you have 4 cells in that contingency table, that information, that's what's referring to your joint probability, so the joint intersection of whatever particular column or row data there is. And then the sums on the outside, or the totals, those are your marginal probabilities, okay? Now all this information I'm going through right now so pay note, is particularly useful for this upcoming quiz or weekly assignment. So, there's some questions on there that ask about the joint probabilities. Typically, those questions don't require any calculation. The answer is within the table. So if it's asking for the joint probability of, say, Republicans or Democrats or males and whatever, the answer is right there in the table. So you just need to know to look for it. And again, the marginal probabilities would be those calculations or sums or totals on the outside of the rows or columns. And what's kind of neat, I didn't really notice this before, in this particular assignment, there's specific questions, there's, at the tail end of the questions, there's some supplemental reading materials and videos to assist with that question. So kudos for my course directors for including that. We're also going to get into the concept of the normal distribution, particularly the z-score. It's also called the standard score. And what that is, it's a very simple formula that's dependent on 3 pieces of information. The z-score, by definition, is the number of standard deviation units a particular raw score is from the mean. So, for example, if you just need to know what the mean is of your distribution of your data, what the standard deviation is. Again, the standard deviation, if you can't remember what that is, that's the square root of the variance. The variance being, if you had whatever raw score data you have, it's that score minus the mean squared. You sum that up, that's your variance. Take the square root of it, that's your standard deviation. The z-score is any particular raw score that you have in your data file in a particular column, minus it from the mean and divided by the standard deviation. So you can write a simple formula in Excel that would be equal sign, parentheses, parentheses, whatever that raw score value is, minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. So for example, let's say you had a raw score of, say, 67, a mean of 51, and a standard deviation of 15. It would simply, the formula for that would be just equal sign, parentheses, 67 minus 51 divided, and the divide sign is that slash or hash, if you will, divided by, let's say a standard, did I tell you the standard deviation? It's 15. Divided by 15, you would get a z-score of 1.067 rounded. All right, we're talking about the normal distribution. Yes, this is a probability table, and there's characteristics of the normal distribution. So things you should know, that the mean and median of any normal distribution are equal. And then we're going to get into this concept of percentages of standard deviations within the normal distribution model. So you should know, for whatever normal distribution, you can assume that 68% of the variation or scores around the mean are going to be one standard deviation above or one standard deviation below. 95% of the scores are going to be two standard deviations above or below. Okay, so if you imagine a bell curve, a mean score, now we're slicing the tails of the distribution. So one standard deviation above and below is 68% of the range. Two standard deviations is 95%. Three standard deviations is 99.7. So that's just a rule. You just need to suck that up and accept it, okay? Then there's also this concept of the standard normal distribution. Again, probability function, and within that there is a mean of 0 and a standard deviation of 1. Now all these are like key terms you should pay note of for this upcoming assignment or quiz. So if you want to rewatch this, go ahead and look through this week's assignment. It should be very helpful. Okay, so that is it. I will grade homework 2. You got some great job on this last quiz. You got some really helpful hints for this upcoming quiz or weekly assignment. If you have any questions, just ask. Don't forget about the probability puzzles for this week to do. And that's it. So let's have a great week. I'm obviously back in Okinawa, getting over my jet lag, and I hope you all are doing well.